In this episode, we have a conversation with Chloe Haddad, where we discuss how your church can use social media to engage your community outside of Sunday. Well, hey there, and welcome to another episode of Church Leadership Lab, the podcast that is dedicated to conversations that empower healthy churches. My name is Kendall Connor. I'm so thankful to be with you today for another episode. In our time together, we're going to get to hear from Chloe Haddad. We're going to discuss all things church communications and social media. I know that oftentimes social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, any of the many platforms that are out there, we know that they can be downright confusing. Even as a church leader, once you feel like you've gotten a grasp on how your church can utilize these tools to reach your community, we know that they change all the time, right? And so that's why that I know today you're going to enjoy hearing from our guest, who is a specialist in all things social, a specialist in all things communications, all of these things. We're going to discuss how you can use these tools to reach people and to minister to them outside of just Sunday morning. You can minister to them all throughout the week by using these tools. So let me tell you a little bit about her. As a pastor's daughter, Chloe grew up around ministry for literally all of her life, and she first felt the call to ministry after going on her first mission trip in Brazil back when she was in high school. After years of praying for just clear direction from God, he led Chloe to the Nashville area, and shortly after, she got connected there at Rolling Hills Community Church. That's right there in Franklin, Tennessee. She first started in a communications team role during the pandemic, and Chloe really helped in that season, help that staff to navigate reaching people online. We remember how important it was in that season. She was able to help with the online campus, with social media, the website, and all things digital. And in that season, while it may have been challenging, it really revealed to her that she had a love for helping people get connected to Jesus using technology. And so now she serves full-time there as a groups and online campus director there at Rolling Hills. And her focus is really just to help individuals and families to connect in person, but especially online, get connected to the community that God has designed there and with the good work that God is doing in that community. And so Chloe also has been married to her husband, Jacob, for almost 2 years. And when she's not working, she loves to spend time outside by the river and in the pool, and loves spending time with her family, who are all right there in Tennessee. I'm excited for this conversation. I want to jump right in. Let's jump into my conversation with Chloe Haddad on using social media to engage people outside of Sunday morning. Well, hey, Chloe, we're so excited to have you on the podcast with us today. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here with you, Kendall, with Ministry Brands too, getting to know some of our church leaders. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're really excited. Now, we've just shared your public bio, but something that we always like to do when we have guests join us is we like to ask the question, what's something that doesn't make that public bio, but maybe all of your friends and family would know about you? Is there anything else that you could share with us?
Yeah, I think something fun that I like to share that definitely is a huge part of my life. I actually played Division I volleyball in college. And so volleyball, sports, athletics is a huge part of my life. And it still is. I still am on a rec league, so all about that. So I think that's something fun. I even for a minute thought about going into sports communication before, I ended up deciding to go with church communication. So definitely something that is a huge part of my life, something I like to share too.
That is awesome. So no doubt if you at least if you haven't tried yet, it sounds like a volleyball small group maybe is like somewhere in your future at your church, right?
Oh yeah. Well, we actually have a sports ministry, and so I've tried to do that, like start a rec league where we kind of get some people from outside of our church to be involved with that. So yeah, all about that.
That is awesome. And maybe that should be included in that public bio. That's a great fact.
Yeah. All right.
That's awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about your journey as a communications leader serving in the church. How did you get started with that? What drew you in? Is that something that you've always been passionate about?
Yeah, so I grew up a pastor's daughter, so that is in my public bio. And so ministry I've seen it, the good, the bad, the difficult at times, mainly good, but I grew
Sure.
up around ministry. But that said, I didn't quite know that was something I wanted to do until post college, really, for me. And
Sure.
though I was involved with the church for so much of my life, it wasn't until actually upon graduation I started working as a social media manager for a Bible teacher, author, and speaker here in Nashville. And I think from there, it really sparked my interest, my love for getting to do something within communications, but with such a purpose. And what better purpose than to help people know Jesus, to reach people
Right.
with the gospel. And so I think that really started getting my interest in the church world and in ministry in general. But then with my current, where I work now at Rolling Hills Community Church, how I got involved with this role, I got a call from our former communications director one day, just let me know, like, hey, I know you've been helping out with social media, you've been attending Rolling Hills, but I actually have a role on our communications team I think you'd be a really great fit for. And so for me, I remember being at first like, I'm not quite sure. I've seen church ministry my whole life. I think it's amazing and incredible what church leaders get to do, but I just wasn't quite sure that was something that I wanted to do. But to have somebody see that in me and call that out in me,
Huge.
I think is what was just massive in my life. And so I remember just knowing that was from the Lord and just taking that step. And it was actually in 2020 when that happened. So also in the midst of a worldwide pandemic and
Right.
just an absolute crazy time for our world. But to be called, have that called out in me and to really feel like that was something the Lord had been preparing me for was really special. So that's kind of how I got started. And I've been on the communications team, for over almost 5 years now. So
that's really awesome. And I feel like there are so many people probably who are even listening right now who the pandemic, whether it was around that time when everyone kind of had to figure out how to increase what they were doing online, right? Or
absolutely
somewhere along their journey, right, in church, they have just kind of been handed communications, no matter what role they may be in or, what they're particularly passionate about. Communication sometimes just gets thrown into the mix, right? And so it is very valuable to what we do in the church. I feel like more than ever, right?
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. And to even see, especially in times of difficulty, such as a pandemic, to see how the church can really, raise up, whether it's digitally with online streams, and I actually oversee our online campus as well in my current role. So getting to see how that really filled in the gap in that time with not being able to meet in person. And so definitely, I believe fully in the power of church communications and what God can use that in the church ministry for sure.
I love that and love hearing your heart in that as well. I know that church communications can really take a lot of different forms, right? And maybe that's social media, or maybe that's emails, or, maybe whatever that may be. I'd love to hear from you on what would you say that your approach is through the various channels. What's your approach to creating a message for your church and kind of connecting with your congregation?
Yeah. You're right. There's so many different ways that you can reach a church congregation, which can be awesome, but also really difficult, knowing how to craft the message that you are, and craft in a way that's positive and really encouraging to your people. And I think something that our team really focuses on is asking the question is, what is the felt need that our message, our campaign is really trying to answer for the people in our congregation, the people that maybe come across our channels on social media or our online campus, our online stream as well. And so I think when you put yourself in their shoes and ask, what is it about this campaign, about this message that would resonate with them? What is it? Is it loneliness? Is it the need for community? Is it, the need for a church home? Is that what our focus is for this campaign? And really putting ourselves in their shoes. And so before we start any campaign, any messaging, that's definitely the question that we ask is, what is that felt need? What is the answer to the question that the people are asking? And then along with that, I think something that we try to do in all our campaigns, all of our messaging is just to keep it consistent, whether they see it on social media, they see it on our app, they hear about it on a Sunday morning, wherever the outlet is, even in an email, wherever that may be. is that we're talking about the campaign, the program, the event, whatever's taking place in a way that's consistent. The messaging is the same. Sure. So, for example, say it's a women's ministry event, rather than saying, hey guys, join us for this event. It's going to be awesome. We know you're going to love it. Say it in a way, it maybe the felt need that we're answering is just how women sometimes just feel so bogged down, so busy with all the constraints on their life. Their mom, they work, they, whatever it may be. And so maybe the message that we have for this campaign is, hey, ladies, we know that you've got so many things going on in your life. You're so busy. You've got so many different, plates you're trying to keep spinning. And we get that. Yeah. But hey, we're going to invite you to an evening of community with other women. We're going to invite you to a catered dinner, worship, and an inspiring message so that we can help you be encouraged walking into whatever the next week is going to hold. And so we keep that same messaging across the board. And in a way that we are answering that question or that felt need that women are having. So yes, I think that's a strategy that's worked really well, and a strategy that resonates with ourselves, us as a staff. So we try and keep that pretty consistent across the board.
You've said so much good stuff with this. I want to jump back to, you said that it's not necessarily that you're starting with, okay, where we've got to say this message in all of these places and then it's done. It's saying, okay, well, what do they need to hear? What's important to them? And then it seems like you want to make sure, okay, wherever we're going to communicate something that's going to be able to reach this audience, we're going to make sure that it's consistent. And
absolutely. Yeah.
I love that you said it's not, I feel like as church leaders, sometimes we get caught in a trap of, hey, we want you to be there. It's going to be so exciting. You don't want to miss it. We have these little cliches, right?
Yeah.
But I love what you said about, okay, this is a night just for you. We know how overwhelmed you may be in this season, and really try to touch on those felt needs. That is a different level of approaching this kind of messaging. And I feel like it is a way to engage people in a way that really resonates with them. It connects with them and says, well, you know what? I am tired.
Yeah. And it says, we see you, we see where you're at. Like, we're not just adding another thing to your plate. We're trying to encourage you, we're trying to reach you right where you are. And so, I think you're right. It is. I think that's so often we get stuck in that lane of, hey, where are we promoting this? What are we saying? Start with, hey, what are we answering here? So.
No, that's so good. And I think for all of our church leaders who are listening to this, I know that they have the right heart about these events. These events are obviously important. They want to get the word out about them.
Yeah.
But starting 100%. From that place of what's important to the people, why is this important for them to be a part of? I think that's so good.
Yeah.
I know that social media is a big deal in your life. You do social media for your church. You've even helped at ministry brands on our team being able to help us reach our audience on social media. Social media is a key tool in every church. Come on, in this day and age, right? It's something that churches can't ignore.
No doubt.
How would you say that you approach creating content for that? And what can church leaders kind of take from this to apply in their own churches?
Yeah, well, I think I have to start with our 80-20 rule. You may have heard this before, church leaders, but I say our church this has been our approach for years now. And by 80-20, I mean 80% of our content is going to be content that's engaging, encouraging, inspiring, maybe kind of fun and funny, maybe a little relatable. And that's 80% of what we are putting on social media, which for some of you, you might be like, oh yeah, been there, that's what we're doing. But for many of you, that might be, kind of a new thing that you're hearing, because a lot of what you may be posting might be what we put more in like the 20%, which is more of promotional items, calling people to action. So asking them to do something. And I think, to be completely honest, I think that can be kind of what's the easier thing to do, or it can just be like, okay, we got to post out there. Awesome. Mark it off the list. And so I totally don't fault y'all for that. I think that totally is something that we can fall into at times. And I think when we look at social media, make that shift of seeing it rather than just one of our promotional outlets and seeing it as an actual tool for ministry and making a difference in people, whether they attend our church or not, or just come across our social media platform. using social media as something to inspire, to encourage, to equip people to step out in whatever they're facing that day, versus just making another billboard where we're promoting things. And I think that's where we start with content creation. And that's where we really, how we frame our whole social media calendar. And so we get it planned out. I like to say 4 to 6 weeks planned out. I know that is for some difficult. And I mean, even for
that
me,
number will be scary to some, but it is that may be a goal that some churches can try to get to, right?
Yes. And when I first started, we didn't have a calendar at all. And so it was kind of like, all right, we got to start somewhere. We're going to start with saying 3 to 4 days planned out, and then gradually, starting to increase that. But I think that allows you, when you have it a little bit more structured, a little bit more planned out, it allows you to really think through that lens of, is this content really engaging, discipling people really digitally? Or am I using it more as a promotional tool? And those things are not bad at all. So don't hear me say that. But I will say it allows you just to use social media as a tool for discipleship versus just being another promotional outlet. So I'd say when we create content, that's the lens we're really looking through across the board.
It's so good because we can fall into the trap sometimes of, okay, well, it's just going to be a digital bulletin board, right? It's going to be just a place just for announcements. But I feel like it is that next level when you can start coming at it with the mindset, like you said, of we're going to reach people. We're going to disciple people. This is an opportunity really to minister to them outside of that 1 or 2 hours right during the week that they step foot in our church. I mean, this is really, it's a chance to take it to the next level, a chance to continue the conversation even from Sunday. I just imagine how you could even, a pastor who may be listening to this, maybe think, worked so hard on his message or their message, and, it's delivered on Sunday morning, and then it could be done from there. But really, social media could give an opportunity to carry that message on even longer. Have you experienced anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's part where you do have to think creatively, say we've got this content from Sunday, or we've got a sermon that was just preached by our pastor. How can we, creatively think of ways to still keep that message hitting people throughout the week, because it's the world we live in now. People are on their phones every single day. So how can we reach them with the message that, there'll be some folks that were sitting in our congregation. That's awesome. But the power that you have to reach so many people that weren't sitting in that room, or that may be looking for, a church to go to, and that you could potentially be the church that they find across their social media feed. And so definitely, I think creatively thinking and try not to make it super difficult on yourselves, because I know that there are many of you that it's a one-person show with your communications team. And so, really trying to think of creative ways that you can continue to share that message throughout the week, whether it is, say it's a graphic with a quote from the sermon, say it is, it's your phone. You just grab the pastor, sharing a little bit from stage, grabbing them after they're done preaching, and say, hey, can you give us a quick synopsis for us to share on social media, 1 minute of what you just preached on Sunday morning? And I think just those few creative, that's 3 posts right there, that you can post throughout the week. So definitely, I think it will take a little bit of intentionality, a little bit of creativity, but man, it can make such an impact.
I love that. And to speak to that, I mean, one of the ideas that you just mentioned was grabbing a quick video right after the service on Sunday and just, give us a quick recap of your message. Our church literally is doing this right now. We're trying it for the very first time, and people absolutely love it, because maybe they were in the room and it's a good recap, right? Or maybe they weren't there. They missed it for whatever reason. And it's still, it took 10 minutes to record this little video from a phone, right? But it makes a huge difference in helping people.
Right. And we're finding, even with what people are wanting, what's performing well on social media are those more raw, organic, real sort of things. Whereas when for social media first came out, or as the years progressed, you thought you needed something super produced or aesthetically pleasing. Those things aren't bad, but right now people love, they love to see the real, the raw, the even if your pastor slips up on a word, that's all right. Like, they don't mind that in today's world on social media. So absolutely, we're finding that just really resonates with people and is something that they like to see.
That's so good. I know that something that can be scary for people who are trying to get into social media, or maybe they have, have started and found a good pace, found their rhythm, but then we see something changes. A new platform comes out, or the algorithm, so to speak, changes. Can you speak to what are some things that churches can do to kind of prepare themselves for when social networks change or when new trends come about? Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, it's one of the hardest parts of social media. That it's always changing. Those algorithms are always changing. I will say something that's helped me. I actually follow a couple of accounts. One is called Sunday Social. It actually is. It's a platform that resources churches. There's others like that are out there too. That they actually will let you know when these changes happen and what that means for you as a content creator, as a church. And so. Good. For me, that really helps me because I can't keep up. I got so many other responsibilities. Social media is a huge part of my job, but there's other plates that are still spinning. I got to keep spinning. Sunday happens every single week. And so I think that has really, really helped me. And I think also not beating yourself up over, oh man, I don't know if this is going to perform well anymore, and to not have it, paralyze you to keep you from posting, but rather continue to educate yourself, continue to learn, but also see if you've got people in your church body, or maybe people outside of the church, friends that may be in the marketing or communications world outside of the church that maybe, you can grab coffee with once a month or once a quarter and kind of talk through what some of those changes are so that you can be resourced, you can be educated, but at the same time, you can still keep posting content that, maybe the algorithms have changed some, but still have that knowledge of knowing how to make those changes as you're continuing to think ahead to the future. And so I think as much as you can resource yourself with people, whether it's in the church or outside of the church that have that knowledge is very helpful, knowing that many communications team, they hold lots of things in their hands. So right there with y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about in my own church, there have been different seasons where we've been able to get different volunteers involved, and maybe someone can't necessarily commit as a volunteer to being the one that goes in and posts every little thing, but they may be able to help with taking photos one Sunday or taking photos once a month, or being involved as we make one reel, or being involved in kind of small ways when opportunities come around. But I love with anything creative in a church, there are people who you may even be surprised that are sitting in your pews, sitting there in your church, who would just love to be asked to help with something. There's people who have those creative gifts, right?
100%. And that's something that our team has really been working on is finding those people in our church family that we can tap on their shoulder. Like, hey, we see that you're really good at this. How can we get you involved? And I found almost every time, I don't even know if I can think of a time where it hasn't happened, where they feel honored to be seen, to be asked, and they have 100% been willing to jump in and get involved. And I think it's helped so much because I'll admit, I don't love every single part of social media. There are times where it's difficult to create content, or, where I just run out of time, and having somebody, or several folks that can help, take that weight off on a Sunday morning. Hey, I'll grab some content for our social media stories and upload it, or I'll grab the pastor after the service and record our video. And I've just found that they just love to be a part of what the church is doing. They love to be seen and asked and invited to be part of a team too. And, I just think it's really special. It's one of my favorite things about being in a church, on our church staff, is getting to get people involved that aren't normally involved on a Sunday. So
I love that. I love hearing your heart on that. It is very special just to kind of see other people light up and to be able to get involved in the ministry.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I want to touch a little bit on the spiritual side of, connecting with people during the week. Do you think it's possible through communications, through social media, to help people grow closer to Jesus, just from connecting on social? I mean, is there opportunity there for discipleship and for spiritual growth?
Yes, 100%. I feel this. I mean, I just have grown so much in how my perspective has shifted on this as well, because social media has changed so much, even over the past 5 years that I've been a part of our staff. But to see ways that you can disciple people online, that you can have touch points with them throughout the week, like we were just talking about earlier, I think is so special about social media and getting to do that for a church. And I think you think of it through, on a Sunday morning, like I'm gonna give you an example we just talked about a series. It was on heaven at the start of this year. And it would have been very easy for us to be like, hey guys, join us on Sunday. Can't wait to see you. Be a part of our series. It's launching. We're talking about heaven. See you there. And that's great. It's all well and good. Nothing wrong with it. But instead we looked at it of what are the questions that people are asking about heaven? What are the things that if they have no context of what's happening at our church on a Sunday or programming throughout the week, that they just come across our profile on their social media, how will it reach them in a way that will actually compel them to think about spiritual matters or to grow in their faith? And so instead of saying, join us. We did probably have a post that said that. Join us at church on Sunday, talking about heaven. Love that.
Guilty, right?
Yeah, gotta do it. But along with that, we also had some posts created that were, hey, what is heaven? What is it going to look like in heaven? How do I get to heaven? Is heaven going to be scary? Some questions that, people are asking. And so I think that's one example, but you can do that in so many different ways of how are you, again, what are people thinking about? What are they feeling? What's happening in today's world that we can in turn answer that with a faith-based answer and encouragement and inspiration. And you think of the times that you've even been scrolling on social media, maybe you see a verse that comes across that really hits you in the season that you're in. Maybe you've had an exhausting week, you've been tired, and you read that the yoke of Jesus is one that he wants to take off of you. He gives you such freedom and peace, and so I think I've just remembered seasons of my life. And so getting to put myself on the other side of that screen and getting to really impact people in that way and look at it through that lens, I think really can make a difference.
No, that's really good. And you never know, you schedule these posts, right? You put these things up and you're just wondering sometimes, like, is this impacting anybody? And I think something I love about just the simple principle of sharing scripture, putting posts up there, in a little verses of encouragement or things like that. You just you never know the impact that it can have on somebody. And, I believe God can use it. And, when you share scripture, there's something that's extra powerful about that. Not that I don't love all the other kind of posts you do. And I'm definitely not recommending that you just post scripture all the time and that's all you post. But there is something special just about sharing scripture and, sharing different ways that people just some simple little posts that can bring encouragement. It goes a really long way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So good. Yeah. I know something that a lot of people may think is that, well, social and all of those things, it's just for younger generations. How can you speak to it all? How would you respond to that it's only for young people? Is this something that you can engage every generation with when you're posting?
I think that you can hear that a lot. And I think that one, you have to look at what are the different social media platforms out there, because now there are so many that are popular. There's several that are extremely popular. But you even think of that. I mean, there's billions of people, with a B, that have a Facebook platform, and so that means it's not just the younger generation. It's people across the board, all multi-generations that are using some sort of social media. And so I think, of course, keeping that in mind, but then also thinking about the platforms that you are posting on. Right. So sure, there are some where it's more likely that it is a younger demographic that is tuning in, say the TikToks, Instagram Reels, and then maybe catering the content that you are posting on those platforms to the generation, the age demographic that you know is more likely using those platforms. But along with that, also catering the content that you do post, say on a Facebook that may have a little bit of an older demographic, make your content as you can, in certain instances, catered more towards the demographic that is on those platforms as well. So I think that does take creativity. Of course, it does take thinking through that lens of what is the demographic I'm trying to reach. But the truth of the matter is there's just so many people that are on social media that having that mentality will really limit you and keep you from using it as a tool for spiritual growth and discipleship.
Right. And I feel like it's even it's helpful on all of those platforms. They can tell you the demographics of the people that your pages are reaching when you sign up for those professional accounts, right? And so you can kind of get an idea from the actual data, who's looking at this. And if you want to take a different approach with it, you can literally have a conversation with the people that you're reaching in your church, like, hey, do you follow us on that, on Facebook, or you connect with us on Instagram? Where do you like to connect with us? If you want a little bit more of an organic way to go about it, right? But I love that you said, if you want to take it to the next level, you can try to tailor your post based on where you're posting it. And that does take a little bit extra, right? But it sounds like maybe there's some instances where it may be worth it, such as if your student ministry or your college ministry is trying to reach, it can kind of be a little bit more strategic to post on certain platforms rather than others. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, to your point, if it is a ministry lead that their age demographic is more likely to use that platform, encouraging them, coming alongside them, seeing how you can help as a communications team. If it requires some training maybe, or a little bit of coaching or recruitment of volunteer, get some students from the high school team, get some college students who can help make those TikTok trends, because sometimes those can be difficult no matter your age, whether it's something that you enjoy doing or not. And so I think seeing how you can get help and knowing how you can come alongside ministry leads or give recommendations and suggestions based on the platforms too. I will say there's even small ways that you can do that. If on Instagram, hey, the captions actually can be a little bit longer. People may stay and read that, just knowing some of the details about the platforms. But actually on Facebook, people aren't really tending to read it unless it's got a link in it or whatever. So knowing how you can even make small tweaks, like the length of the caption or the time of day that you're posting. There's even software out there that will help give suggestions based on the platform that you're posting on. A lot of the social media scheduling software will actually provide that to you. So you don't have to do a lot of thinking yourself. You can actually have some resources at your disposal to be able to make those decisions based on where you're posting on the platforms.
No, that's great. That's a great suggestion. I do want to ask this. I mean, in your opinion, what would you say are some of the biggest mistakes that you see churches making when it comes to either just social media or communications as a whole?
We've already kind of touched on it, but it's trying to do it all by themselves. I think that can be very difficult not to do if you've got a small team. If you're a one-person communications team, quote unquote, I think that can kind of be what you feel like has to happen. And I think one mistake is really to not get people in your church body involved, or even if there are members on your staff that are good with social media or they know how to write really well, and you can kind of recruit them to help out with maybe some of your emails that you're writing. So recruiting volunteers, recruiting other folks within your church body to be a part of some of the things that you could delegate and pass off to them, I think is absolutely essential. And I think there's so many church leaders now that you're seeing reach this point of burnout because they just feel this weight of the world on their shoulders, especially in the communications world, I would dare to say. And so I think trying to get some help and really knowing how you can delegate, I think that's a mistake to not do that, and something that a way that church leaders can grow. I think another way with social media specifically is day of, week of, just trying to be like, what should I post this week? What should I post today? I really know I need to do that. So I did say this earlier, but starting with getting 2, 3, 4 days planned out in advance, saying I'm going to start with just 2 posts a week. I'm going to get those planned out for the next 3 weeks, starting there. I think just knowing what's coming up in your social media calendar will really free up your time to be able to either schedule things or have things planned out in advance in bulk, really. So I'd say those are 2 mistakes that I see that I would just recommend really trying to work on.
100%. There is, speaking as someone who has done this in my own church, right? The pressure of in the moment, day of, trying to come up with what that post will be is so much more than planning out an entire week. It's hard to explain, right? But that pressure and especially, you work so hard on that one post for that day and it doesn't get the response that you want. And it is just so draining, so discouraging. But there's just something magical about getting a few days ahead, and it just takes some of the pressure off, and it allows you to get more creative, right? I mean, there's something truly special about it.
It really does limit your creativity when you're not able to do that way, to function that way when it comes to social media. So I even have 1 to 2 hours a week, because I have, that's something that I think is so important, scheduled just to creatively think of posts for the future for us to be able to sprinkle into our social media calendar. And so I'd recommend that if you have even an hour, start with 30 minutes or an hour, or throw out an email there to your church family, to your church staff. Say, what are some posts that you've seen that you've really resonated with? Can you just share them with me as inspiration for what we can help create as a church to get to the point where we are truly discipling people online? Because I think it does take a lot of creativity. It takes time, but it takes intentionality and having such care and consideration for the opportunity that we have when it comes to the digital landscape for church ministry.
No, that's so good. And, I just feel like setting aside a little time, as you've said, it can really help you to say, okay, well, I'm going to set aside this 1 hour or 30 minutes or whatever time it may be. And I'm just going to focus on this. And honestly, you can approach that time prayerfully, right? Like, God, help me to deliver messages that are going to communicate or are going to resonate with my audience this week and really make a difference in their lives. There's something special about it. I love, when you're looking for time savers, right? I feel like a lot of times churches feel like they have to be, have to have great video skills or have to have, a graphic designer on their team just dedicated to something like this. But there's so many tools now that are available. You mentioned one, but I think of the graphics that are inside even what we offer at Ministry Brands with Church Motion Graphics has literally thousands upon thousands of ready-made, customizable social media graphics that are easy when you are trying to say, okay, I need something encouraging. I can go and I can download, and it can be such a huge time saver. I think about the ones that we have with Share Faith. There are resources that are out there to be able to help churches who are just getting started in this, who maybe don't have that the full-time designer on staff, or maybe they're just trying to get started and don't know where to go. I feel like that can be such a big time saver. Have you used resources like that in the past to be able to help you along or to fill in the gaps where needed?
Yeah, those have been very, very helpful for us. I think another way we've gotten volunteers involved too is by having some that can help jump in and create some graphics for us, or even using things like Canva. We've got some folks that know how to create something and make it doesn't have to be the most beautiful post that you've ever seen, but with Church Motion Graphics too, being able to see, okay, I know this is important for us to post. How can we maybe use the caption to really reach people as well? We've got this graphic that's ready to be made, already made, and being able to then use that to reach people. And it really does save you so much time. And I think I'll go back to, finding some sort of scheduling software. There are some, the range of when it comes to budget too, there's a wide range too. So I think that is a huge, huge time saver as well. So I would 100% stand by with everything you just said. I think those are some key time savers and something that can really help you step up your game in a way that is easy to start implementing pretty much immediately.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. I know that kind of in a world where social media is all around us all the time, even for churches, it can be easy to get caught up in how many likes we get or how many followers we have in this season. How would you say that you keep your communication efforts focused on what's truly important, right? Not that those things aren't good, but there are some things like genuine connection and discipleship, as you've said, that are more important. How do you stay on track with what is actually important in this?
It's in today's world that we live in, it's so much about the number of likes and how beautiful the content is that you're creating, and did we go viral, and all of those things are good. I think they're good measurements if you're reaching goals, if you're growing. I think those can be good things in and of themselves. But I think you do have to approach everything you do, one, with humility. If something does perform really well, knowing, hey, let's learn from this. Let's, be excited, be grateful that worked out, but having humility in that too, when that does happen. I think also, before we even have social media team meetings or communications team meetings, we'll just spend some time in prayer, asking the Lord to bless that conversation, for him to bring to mind some things that we can really use to resource people, to encourage people online. So approaching everything you do in a prayerful way, in a way that you're asking the Lord to really bless what you're doing, I think can allow you to, one, remain humble, but also to be able to keep in mind what is the main thing here. What are we trying to do? Right. I think something else that's been encouraging too is if we do get things like a comment from somebody or a message from somebody that's saying, hey, this really spoke to me today, or this message really resonated with me, thanks for posting it. I'll screenshot that and I'll keep it in like an encouragement folder, so that we can go back to those and see why are we doing what we're doing, and how have we impacted people, and to keep that what our focus is.
I love that idea of saving those, having a dedicated folder, right, that you can go back to those screenshots and messages. That's even something that I've done. I've encouraged our volunteers who serve, who maybe run a camera for the live stream. I've taken a screenshot and I've literally, brought it to them and said, listen, I want you to know you're making a big difference today, whether you feel like it in this moment or not. Check out what this person said who was watching last week. And to see the way they light up over something like that is amazing, right?
Right. To know that you are making a difference, even if you're not talking to someone face to face or conversing with them directly, to know you are making a difference. You are doing kingdom work, whether, it's behind the scenes or whether it's communication focused. So absolutely.
I want to ask you, this is something that we ask everyone who comes on the podcast. What would you say is one essential component of a healthy church?
And it was a difficult one for me to think about. But I think what I really landed on is a church staff that is just seasoned with grace, that they lead with grace. By that, I mean, you're giving your other staff members the benefit of the doubt, that you're walking into conversations, whether they're difficult or, a simple everyday meeting, that you're walking in with grace. Because I think there's a time, there's a place for, there are going to be things like conflict, and there are going to be, times for truth telling to be needed. But I think when you can lead out in grace, it really does help all of the people involved on the church staff. I know everyone's going through something. Ministry is really, really difficult at times. It's also the most beautiful things at times as well. But when you can lead with grace to the people that you're working with on a daily basis, on a regular basis, I think it really makes for a healthy church staff.
100%. I love that. And, we're all about just trying to have conversations with leaders to help inspire healthy churches. And I think taking care of your staff and really taking care of your team and your people, and making sure that they're able to connect with Jesus in a real way, and helping them even through social media or whatever it may be, or even as they're serving, being able to know that they're making a difference. It's such a crucial thing, right? And I love how you spoke to that. I know one of the ways that we love to kind of wrap things up is we love to do a rapid fire, kind of a last few questions. Would you be good to jump into a final 5 really quick? All right, let's go through these really quickly. What is one book that you would recommend to church leaders?
And The 6 Types of Working Genius by Patrick Lencioni. That'd be my recommendation.
That is awesome. What would you say is the last thing that you listen to on Spotify or Apple Music?
His name is Forrest Frank. He is the last one that I listened to.
He's so good. I love his music. That is a great recommendation. Okay, what is your favorite piece of technology or software? And kind of a little caveat to that, you can't say your phone.
Can I say my Google Calendar?
That's a good one.
All right, that one.
Gotta have that.
Oh yeah.
All right. What about a quote or a piece of advice that has stuck with you over the years?
Leave it better than you found it. Definitely.
Say it one more time.
So, it better than you found it is my quote.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's really good. And finally, as we end things today, what is one thing that you would like to communicate with our audience of church leaders today?
Pastor just said something the other day that really resonated with me. And he said that pressure is a privilege. So when you do feel things like deadlines or the pressures of ministry, it can be really difficult and you kind of get caught up in that. But when we recognize that when we face these pressures, that it actually is a privilege that we get to be in ministry, get to, go through those difficult seasons at times, but to know that that's ultimately why we do what we do and keeping that at the center of all that we do. And so to be completely transparent, coming out of a little bit of a season of feeling like you're a little bit in the weeds or getting a little discouraged at times. So to be able to be reminded as much as you can, remind yourself and have people around you to remind you that what we do is a privilege and it is an honor to get to do what we do.
No, I love that. Our church, we have a big sign right by our stage that says, "Don't forget, we get to do this. Thank you, God, for choosing us." I mean, it definitely is a privilege. Chloe, this has been so good today. Thank you for taking time to talk with me. I know it's going to help so many people. Thank you for being on here with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And I just want to say to everyone who is listening and watching today, thank you so much for being on here with us. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule. We love being able to help churches all over the world with just having these conversations that help inspire you, help to give you little tips and tricks to help you in different areas of ministry. And so if today this has been beneficial to you, we would just ask one thing, and that is that you share it with somebody else. That can be done simply by sharing a link or leaving some kind of a like or comment or review, whatever it may be, just sharing this and helping us get the word out to other churches. It just does so much for us. It helps to make us smile because we get to share this message with more and more people. And so thank you for helping us with that. And we look forward to seeing you next time as we continue to have conversations that help healthy churches. We'll see you next time.
This episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast is brought to you by Ministry Brands, the largest provider of church technology software. Over 90,000 churches rely on Ministry Brands for their single platform solution that brings together all the digital tools a church needs. From online giving to websites to church management software and more, Ministry Brands is leading the way in simple to use, innovative solutions, all with the goal of empowering healthy churches. To learn more, visit ministrybrands.com.